My name is Emma Lynn, and on my 23rd birthday, my family gave me a gift I'll never forget. $18,622 of someone else's debt. We were sitting at a restaurant my mom picked, her favorite, not mine. My dad was checking football scores. My sister Danielle was swirling a cocktail and avoiding eye contact. Then Mom handed me a small white bag. Inside, a silk scarf, and beneath it a folded paper with legal formatting. "Your sister's boutique failed," she said softly. "She took out a loan. We thought maybe you could help." I blinked. "You want me to take over her loan?" "It's just a co-signature," Dad shrugged. "You have clean credit." I laughed, a small, shocked laugh. "You kicked me out of violin lessons when I couldn't pay for gas, and now you want me to rescue Danny L's luxury candle business." The silence was deafening. "You always think you're better than us," Mom hissed. "This is what family does." "No," I said, "this is what family takes." I stood up, no drama, no yelling. I left that dinner with a scarf I didn't ask for and a voicemail from Dad 2 hours later. "If you're too good for us, don't come back." So I didn't. That first night I slept in a stairwell. I had nowhere else to go. No coat thick enough. No family to call. But I had a job, night shift at the city college library, and I had a notebook. A blue spiral one I bought with my last $10. I wrote in it every night between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. when the library was silent except for the hum of the vending machine. My first entry was simple: build something no one can take from you. I didn't know what that meant yet, so I started with what I had. Basic budgeting knowledge, a laptop that barely worked, and a determination born of being absolutely alone. I built a digital budgeting sheet, nothing fancy. Just color-coded tabs, simple formulas, a friendly intro. Uploaded it to a small site that let you sell templates. 2 weeks later, at 3:42 a.m., I got a notification. $19, $99 payment received. I stared at that screen for 5 full minutes, not because of the money, but because it was the first time in years someone saw value in something I made. No guilt, no conditions, just value. That first sale wasn't a fluke, it was a spark, so I kept going. On breaks between shifts on the train, I watched tutorials, read case studies, taught myself UX design, copywriting, and SEO, because no one was going to market this thing for me. By year 2, I had 7 templates online and over 8,000 downloads. People didn't know who I was, they just knew the spreadsheets worked. I reinvested everything. Learned how to launch a full budgeting course. Hired a freelance developer to build a clean, mobile-friendly version. And I made sure every purchase included a simple sentence: "You deserve peace with your money." Funny how a stranger halfway across the world could believe that about me before my own family ever did. I moved into a small studio. No balcony, no couch, just mine. There was a whiteboard on the wall with 3 bullet points: 1, no debt; 2, no dependence; 3, no apologies. I cooked my own food, wore the same 3 coats on rotation, learned to say no without guilt and yes without fear. But even as I built, the ghosts of my past lingered. Once, I got a like on Instagram from a burner account. No photo. Just the name, MJ726. When I clicked it, I saw one follower, my sister. Another time, a Facebook account with a sunflower profile pic watched my story 3 days in a row. They weren't speaking to me, but they were watching, like spectators in a game they once forfeited. And I realized, sometimes the people who leave you for dead come back, not to apologize, but to confirm you didn't. I wasn't looking for it. I was just scrolling through local listings, half habit, half curiosity. Then I saw it. The porch swing. The turquoise shutters. The ivy climbing the side column like it belonged there. I stopped breathing for half a second. Charming colonial needs TLC. Price to move. Foreclosure imminent. I didn't need to read the address. I knew it. It was the house. The one Mom used to point at every time we drove past the Maple District. That's the kind of house we deserve, she used to say. A house with real windows, not plastic blinds. A porch where people wave, not whisper. She'd build whole fantasies around that house. Tea parties on the lawn, wind chimes on the balcony, a mural in the attic she'd paint just for us girls. But we never made it past the gate. Now it was up for sale, back taxes, multiple liens, cash buyers preferred. I cleared my schedule. At the showing, the air inside smelled like lemon cleaner and old regrets. The realtor smiled. Needs a bit of love, she said. Family's been in financial trouble. Looking to offload fast. I nodded, barely listening. Then I heard a door creak. Footsteps, familiar, soft, worn, and there she was, Mom, wearing the same cardigan. Wiping down the kitchen counter like she belonged to it, she didn't see me. She barely looked up, just mumbled something to the realtor and disappeared down the hall. I stood still. 10 years ago, I stood on the curb with nothing but a scarf and a voicemail. Now I stood in the foyer of the house she always wanted, and realized I could buy it, not to live in it, not to haunt her, but to finish the sentence she never let me write, to prove that the door they slammed shut didn't lock me out forever. The auction was held in a small beige conference room behind a local bank. No fanfare, just a plastic pitcher of water, weak coffee, and a handful of middle-aged investors with spreadsheets and opinions. I wore a charcoal coat, no jewelry, and pulled my hair into a low knot. No one recognized me. That was the point. My bitter paddle was number 104. I sat in the third row, silent, still, listening. The auctioneer started with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Classic colonial property. Lots of charm, needs some work. Opening bid, $75,000. A man in the front raised his hand. Another followed. Then a third. It climbed to $82,000, then paused. Someone behind me whispered, "This one's a liability. Whoever gets it's buying headache." That's when I raised paddle 104. New bidder. $84,000, the auctioneer announced. A few heads turned. A man 2 seats over scoffed, probably just trying to drive up the price. They kept going. $85,000, $86,500. I waited, then $88,000, I said clearly, raising my hand once more. Silence. No one countered. Final call, sold to bidder 104. The gavel fell just like that. No one clapped. No one looked at me twice. But in that moment, I didn't feel victorious. I felt, still, like something long buried had finally settled in the ground. I signed the deed through a holding company I had quietly formed 2 months earlier. Carrington and Lynn Acquisitions. No ties to Emma Lynn, no trail to follow, because this wasn't about names, it was about ownership. Of the home, of the story, of myself. When I walked back out into the cold morning light, keys in hand, I didn't feel like I'd won something. I felt like I'd reclaimed something, not the house itself, but the version of me who once stood outside its gate, told she wasn't good enough to walk in. 3 weeks after the auction, I sent a letter, not a message, not a call, a letter. Typed on thick paper, hand-delivered, signed only. From the new owner. It invited her to a private walkthrough before the official renovation began. No mention of my name, no hints, just a time, a date, a place. She arrived early. Same cardigan, same perfume. She looked around, eyes misty with something between nostalgia and disbelief. "You the agent?" she asked. I smiled. "Not quite." We walked through the house quietly. She paused in the kitchen, ran her hand along the counter like she was remembering something from a dream she'd almost forgotten. "I always loved this place," she murmured. "It felt like the kind of life we were supposed to have." I said nothing. In the living room, I stopped in front of the fireplace. There, propped against the mantel, was a framed document, the deed. She stepped forward, read the name once, then twice, and froze. "Emma Lynn." Her voice cracked like dry porcelain. "You bought this." I didn't move. "Why wouldn't you tell me?" she asked, almost pleading. "You told me not to come back." She stepped back like the words physically hit her. "We were angry. We thought you'd come around eventually." "I did," I said softly, "just not the way you expected." She tried to explain, tried to say Danielle was struggling, that they didn't mean it that way. That family is complicated. I let her speak, then I handed her a small envelope. Inside, a note, just one sentence. "This time I hold the key." She looked up. "Is this revenge?" "No," I said. "This is clarity. We're your parents." "You were," I replied. "Now, you're just people I used to belong to." She looked like she wanted to say more, to beg, to argue. But for once, she didn't. She just held the envelope. And left. I never told the staff who she was. To them, she was just another visitor. A woman with tired hands and a quiet voice. Someone who lingered in the doorway longer than necessary. I didn't correct them. I didn't need to. Because by then, I wasn't trying to rewrite the story. I was just finally the one holding the pen. The house was renovated within 6 months. Fresh paint, restored shutters, new garden, and on the porch, a swing just like the one she always talked about. But she never sat on it. I did. Sometimes on Sunday mornings, with tea in hand and silence that didn't feel heavy anymore. The attic stayed empty. The mural she once said we'd paint together, I left that wall blank. Some promises, I realized, are more powerful untouched. The last thing I did before I called it complete was change the locks, not out of fear, but for closure. The locksmith handed me a small, polished key, said, "Congratulations." But I didn't put it on my keychain, not right away. Instead, I walked into the garden, knelt down near the rose bush, and buried the old brass key. The one from the front door, before I owned it. The one she used to say represented a better life. I didn't bury it out of spite. I buried it because I no longer needed it to remember. Now, when people ask if I've forgiven them, I say, I don't carry debt, not financial, not emotional. Because forgiveness, to me, isn't letting someone back in. It's letting go of the weight they left behind. The day I hosted the charity event on the front lawn, I wore white, not to prove anything. Just because peace looks good in the light, they were in the crowd, watching, not clapping. And when I stepped on stage, I didn't speak about pain, I spoke about doors. Some of us were born outside, I said, but we learned to build. And once you build something of your own, you never have to knock again. The crowd applauded. I didn't hear it. Because inside, I was thinking of the girl I used to be. The one holding a birthday bag full of guilt. And nothing else. She made it. And now, she holds the final key. And if you've ever been made to feel like you had to earn your place in your own family, if you've ever been handed guilt and called it love, I hope you know, you are allowed to walk away, not to punish, but to protect the part of you still learning how to bloom. And if this story felt like a mirror, or even a whisper of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below, or just type one word key, so we know you found yours too.